I have a desire to talk today about what happens for those who are on the spiritual path. Initially, what tends to happen is people are seeking to live something better than they've been living, or they're wanting to explore, or possibly they're wanting to not feel pain that they're feeling, or they don't like their life, and spirituality can become a coping mechanism. It can become a bypass to actually truly looking at ourselves, looking at our thoughts and our concepts and how we view ourselves and how we view the rest of life. However, that is actually a part of the path as well, is to be able to look at all of it and to surrender or to accept everything. Specifically, I like to talk about what happens to those who are saying that they've had enough. They don't understand who they are. They don't feel like life is treating them right. They don't possibly even know who they are. They've reached a point in their life where it's not enough. And this is what begins to happen as an energy comes in, or awakening happens. It's like the very first step is that we need to break down the ego. And when I say ego, I'm specifically talking about the mind, or all the concepts that we've created about ourselves, all of the ideas that we are, whether we believe that we are a mother or a father or a professor or a teacher or a kind person, or we believe we're too fat or too thin or not smart enough or too smart, or all of these concepts that we have created that have been layered upon us over the years, that have created what we call a personality. This is who I am. I am these things. And we reach a point where we believe, or we desire, or we have a knowing inside of ourselves that we're actually more than those things, or that this isn't enough. There is something more that we are curious about. And then when that happens, I believe, through my experience at least, and I'm never saying that I've mastered any of these things. I'm always going through what other people are going through, maybe not at the same time, but at different times. And so the process for me has been what I call like the dismantling of the ego, or some call it in India traditions. In India, they'll say the dark night of the ego is when the ego must die. That part of us that has been created, all of the concepts, all of the ideas of who we believe we are, all of the stories that we've created about ourselves and about others. So what begins to happen, it's almost like an energy comes in and begins to dismantle that ego. And that's when the challenges begin. So the challenge is, as we see what our perceptions are, as we become aware of our thoughts, as we become aware of the stories that we've told ourselves, the ideas that we've told ourselves, the what we believe ourselves to be, we have the desire to transform ourselves, or to become self-realized. The ego actually becomes more alive. It begins to fight. It's almost like it doesn't want to let go of all of these concepts. And so there's almost like an internal battle that happens, but not really. It's more so that what begins to happen is that voice becomes louder and much more obvious to us. Let's say, for example, that we have believed our whole life that we are a genius, and we work at a university and we're very, very smart, and we have all of these great ideas and inventions, and we've written all these books, and this has become our the concept of who we are. So all of those things, for example, begin to break down. In other words, we begin to see that it's an illusion. And the ego wants to hold on to all of that. The ego wants to say, no, this is who I am, and it begins to fight. Possibly we have been in a relationship, or we were married for 30 years, and that became our identity. And then what happens as a spiritual seeker, we begin to develop this, we see that this doesn't feel right anymore, and we, possibly get a divorce from the person, and as that happens, the ego begins to fight, because that concept of itself was so strong for all those years that now that it's no longer there, it wants to create something else, or it wants to hold on to what was. As we point back to the truth, or we look for the truth, or we strive for what is true, and that might be different for other people. It might be love, it might be connection with God or with Jesus or with something greater, or devotion to understanding what and who we are. As that passion, that desire builds within us, the ego gets stronger because it knows that it's dying. It doesn't get stronger, I'm sorry. It knows that it's dying, so it begins to fight. It gets louder. The mind might get really loud to the point where our thoughts are just on overdrive. And this is a good thing. I say this is a good thing because this is the process of the dark night of the ego. When the ego begins to, it knows that it's dying, that it's no longer going to be able to survive because something greater is coming forth, and that something greater is the self-realization. It's your soul. It's the soul of you that is coming forth and beginning to bring forth a truth. It's a feeling, it's a tangible feeling in your body, this truth. And so that's why I say it's a good thing. So trust that if you are a seeker, if you are somebody who is on the spiritual path, and there are people out there as well that aren't on the spiritual path, and this is happening to them as well. Their egos are breaking down. Their egos are dying. I believe actually, everybody is on, is awakening or is on a path, whether you are consciously active and participating in that or not, because we are doing this together as humanity. So there are people as well that aren't on the path, that are having this breakdown of the ego. And even those people, I think, even deserve more of our compassion and forgiveness and understanding and in our love. So whether or not you are consciously aware of your participation in your own self-realization or not, the ego is going to fight because it knows that it's dying, and it might feel like you're losing your mind because that's what's happening. You're not losing your all the facilities or your memory or your cognition, but you are losing that part of you that's had such a grip on you for so long that you have identified with as like your self-concept, believing that you are a certain way in this world, that you are a certain person, that you have a personality. And so know that this is a good thing, that as you are on your path, as you are moving forward, that this is a natural part, that the mind becomes even more loud. So understand, or maybe just give yourself a break or an opportunity to see that as the mind gets louder, it is a good thing because it knows that it's actually dying, and your soul is becoming louder. That inner truth, that inner realization is turning on within you. And you might also notice that your intuition is becoming stronger, or that inner truth, that inner knowing, that intuition is becoming stronger as well. And this is a good thing. This is the death of the ego. This is the dark night of the ego. It's going to fight as hard as it can to hold on to what you believe that you were for so long. And until that time that it breaks down, be patient with yourself, because this is a part of the awakening process. This is a part of you becoming more of who you are, understanding and becoming more embodied with love and more embodied with truth and that impulse within you that knows that's right. So I hope this message finds you well. I love you. Thank you. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.